Okay, do you see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Now, this is what we are doing today, inshallah. Given requirements, okay, we are trying to what? We are going to try to design conceptual database design. So we are only doing the C today. Given R, we are doing the C. And last time I showed you this is our requirement, our R. And what did I tell you? Just read these requirements carefully, identify the entities first. So I think you did that already, and you identified, remember, 4 entities last time. So the first thing to do is you have to identify the entities. And we have 2 types of entities. We have strong entity, we have weak entity. Now, a strong entity, we only use one box for it, like one rectangle, but for the weak entity, we use double rectangle. Do you have any questions here? Sorry, any questions? Okay, so we did that, and we identified the following rectangles: employee entity, department entity, project entity, and dependent entity. And dependent was what? Dependent was weak entity, while employee was strong entity, department was strong entity, and project was strong entity. Now, what makes an entity weak? Simply if the entity, if it doesn't have a unique attribute, these circles are attributes, Shabab, or columns, inshallah. This is going to be a table, and these are going to be its columns. Now, if it doesn't have a unique column, then automatically the entity or the box or the rectangle becomes a weak entity, so we have to make it double. Any question up to this point, Shabab, about weak entity and strong entity, what the difference between the two is? Okay, so if you don't have any question here, now the next thing after you finish identify the entities and you draw your boxes, the next thing is you have to draw the attributes. So the next step is identify for each box, for each rectangle, or for each entity, identify its attributes, okay? Attribute, okay. Now, and we said we have 6 types of attributes. We have a simple attribute, we have a key attribute, we have derived attribute, we have multi-value attribute, we have derived attribute, a partial key attribute, and we have a composite attribute. Any of these attributes that you don't know? Just to remind you, let me take you back to this. Simple attribute, we just write a circle and the name. For the key attributes, we write a circle and its name, and we underline the name. For multi-value attribute, we make double circle. For derived attribute, we make dotted circle. For partial key, we make a circle and the name underlined but dotted underline. And for the composite, we make an attribute for attributes. All the other attributes are attributes for a entity, but this is attribute for attribute. Let me show you all of them one by one. Now, simple attributes. Can you show me simple attributes here, Shabab? At least 1 or 2 from the employee table.
For example, BDate and address.
Very good. For example, address and birth date. Yes, exactly. Sex, salary, last name, middle initials, and first name. All of these are what? All these are simple attributes. Just a circle and the name inside the circle without underlining it. Can you show me in the same table a key attribute?
SSN.
SSN. Very good. So, how many key attributes do I have in this conceptual design, Shabab? How many can you see? We have 2. SSN. We have
5.
We have 5. Yes. SSN in the employee table. In the department table, we have 2, and in the project table, we have 1. We have also 2. So we have 5. But in the dependent table, we don't have any. That's why it is what? It is a weak entity. That's why it's a weak entity. So you will know whether entity is weak or strong after you draw the entities, after you draw the attributes, sorry, and then you find out no attribute is the key attribute in a particular table or in a particular entity, sorry, and then you make it a double. Now, can you see a derived attribute here?
Derived attribute.
Yes.
The number of employees.
Very good. This number of employees, which is in the department table, number of employees, this is this dot, 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 dot. What it means is you can drive this one. Okay, you can compute it from what? From information which is in the other tables. Yeah. So you don't have to do this column if you don't want to. Okay. At the end, you will make how many columns for the department? You will make 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, and so on. يعني, inshallah, but later on, you will not know from here exactly how many columns you will have in the department table. But this, you can make this column in the department table, or you can ignore it because you can compute it. We don't need to put it into the database. Okay, do you see a partial key attribute here? A partial key attribute.
The name independent.
Very good. We have only one of them, and you are right. It is the name in the dependent table, which is this one here. This one here. This one here is the one. Okay, so this is a partial key. What does a partial key mean, Shabab? It's not really a key.
But it could be duplicated.
It cannot be duplicated, صحيح, for one particular entity. For example, Salah, my dependents, none of them will have the same name. This is what it means, okay? So inshallah, when we create the table, I will show you, inshallah. But for example, here in this table here, let me show you an example in this table here. He is telling me that this name, which is a dependent name, this column here, is a partial key. What does it mean? What it means is for the same person. Let's, for example, look at this employee whose ID is 333445555. He has 3 dependents. One is Alice, the second one is Theodore, and the third one is Joy. All of these 3 are his dependents. You can see from his ID here. So, now, any of these 3 have the same name or they have different names, all of them? They have different names. So names cannot be duplicated for the same person. What about names? Can we duplicate a name for different people? Yes. For example, Alice, you have here, you have also another Alice here. But this Alice belongs to a different employee whose ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. While this Alice belongs to this employee, which is 33445555. So for individual people, it is unique. But overall, in the column called department name, you will find many duplicates. So this kind of a key, we call it a partial key. Okay. So I will talk about partial key later on, inshallah, in the logical design. They will make a lot of sense to you, inshallah. Any question up to this point, Shabab? Yes?
About the derived key.
Yes.
So it should be like a function. So like it will iterate the database and calculate the number of employees and something like that, yes?
Exactly, and you put it there. So
and the function, where will be the function? In the app or in the database? Or where will it?
Very good question. You can put it in the app or you can put it in the database. You will choose what you want to do.
Okay, but if it was in the app, first you will call a snapshot of the database and then calculate and then put the value, yes?
Exactly, yes.
But if it were in the database, how would you do the function? With SQL?
You have to write SQL and you will use something called triggers, which we are not going to do, Yani.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So most probably for us, it's going to be in the application. Okay, but when we write the application, we will write some SQL inside it anyway, Sahih?
Yes.
So in that, we will write SQL, which will do that for us, but it's going to be within the application. Yes. Excellent. Very good.
Doctor.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask about the partial key.
Partial key.
Yes. Why we didn't use just the key, primary key, or just use the ESSN?
Very good. We could have done so. So what we could have done is the ESSN, we cannot use it because it can be duplicated. Because, for example, this row belongs to this Alice and Theodore and Joy. They belong to 3344, 3445, 3445. My wallet. So it can be duplicated. So we cannot use this one as a primary key. But we can use the employee ID and the dependent name مع بعض as a primary key. So it will be one primary key, but a composite primary key. So if I can make a composite attribute from SSN, which is the employee number, and the name of the of his dependent, then we will have no duplicates. So always the partial key مع the employee ID together, they will be what? They will be the primary key. So we don't have one column primary key, okay? Unless we want to create our own one column and call it a dependent ID, and we make an ID for them. But we don't want to do that, for example, for whatever reason it is. Then we don't have any what they call any unique attribute for that table. So we will be forced to make a composite attribute. We combine the name, which is a partial key, plus the ID of the employee together مع بعض, they will be unique. Did I answer your question or not?
Yes. So we
Yes.
can say that the composite key is a partial key, right?
Oh, the composite key, it will contain a partial key and another attribute. But I would like to talk about it when I finish the relationship. I will come back to this point to make it clear for you, inshallah. Because if you realize the dependent name is there, the sex is there, the birthday is there, and the relationship is there. من فين جا هذا؟ هذا مش موجود. I will show you. I'll show you what I mean here. Look at this picture here. Do you see the dependent هنا? I have 4 attributes. 1, 2, 3, and 4. صحيح? But when we created the table later on, we didn't make them only 4. So this name is there, sex is there, birthday is there, relationship is there. But we have another column which is dependent with SSN. من فين جبنا هذا? It's not in the conceptual design. صحيح?
Right.
In the conceptual design, we only have sex or dependent name and sex and birthday and relationship. We don't have SSN here. من فين جبناه هذا SSN؟ شفت هذا relationship هذه الدايموند هذه, it will be converted into a column. I will talk about this one inshallah later on. So once I talk about this one, then I will come back to the partial key and how do we make a primary key and so on. يعني. So I will come back to it inshallah. Okay?
Okay.
Very good.
Thank
Any
you,
other
sir.
question? Thank you. Any other question, Shabab? Now, before I go forward, you understood a simple attribute, a key attribute, a multi-value attribute, derived attribute. Did you see multi-value attribute here, Shabab?
Location.
Location. Very good. What does it mean, location? It means in the department table, each row will belong at the end. This will be a table, طبعا. This will be a department, will be a table. Now, in that table, في النهاية, each row will have only one name, one number. Like, for example, ICS, department number 1, but it will have many locations. If I put a column called locations in this table later on, now the locations can be many values for each row. Location is multi-value, name is only one value, and number is only one value for each row. So do you understand now what multi-value mean, ya shabab? Okay, multi-value attribute. It means for each row, for now this is going to be a table. So in each row of this table, you will have one name. So in one cell, one name, one cell, one number, but here in one cell, I can have many values. Okay, that's why we are not going to make this one a column in this department table. We'll make it a separate table, inshallah, and I will show you that one later on. But for now, just understand that the 6 different types of attributes, a simple attribute, which is this one, key attribute, which is this one, which is underlined. This is derived attribute. This is multi-value attribute. This is partial key attribute. Now we only left with a composite attribute. Which one is a composite attribute, Shabab? Can you say a composite attribute? Attribute which has other attributes. Do you see one like that?
Name.
The name.
Yes, very good. Name. This is the only one. This is the only composite اللي عندنا because he is the only one which has attributes. Each one of them, they don't have any attributes, all of them, but this one has attributes. Okay? So this is called a composite attribute. So this is what you do during the database design. Let me take you back الحين to this concept. Given the requirement, you have to design the conceptual design. But when you design the conceptual design, first of all, identify the entities. This is the first step. Then after you identify the entity, then identify the attributes for each entity. And the type of attribute. Is it key attribute? Is it partial key attribute? Is it composite attribute? And so on. Do that one for each attribute. So this is the second step. So first step is identifying entities. The second step is identifying attributes for each of the entities. The third step is the most important step and a little bit complicated compared to this. It is a relationship, which is the diamonds. So for this one, we are using rectangles. For this one, we are using what? For number 2, we are using circles. For this one, we use what? Diamonds. So let me show you what I mean by this. Now, this is a diamond. It's a relationship. This is another relationship. This is another relationship. This is another relationship. Now, what does a relationship mean? Let me explain for you what I mean. Simply means the following. For example, I will say that each department controls a project. So this معناته a department is controlled by a project. So there is a relationship between a department and a project. For example, each employee works for a department. So there is a relationship between the employee and the department. So the most important thing is معناته I know that an employee works for a department. So I should know his department was. What is his department? So in the database, somehow I must do what? I must have a relationship between the employee and the department that he works for. So in fact, each diamond في النهاية, it's going to be a column هنا or a column هنا. If I put it here, I have to put for each department the employee that works in that department. If I put it in here, instead in here, then I should put for each employee in which department he works. So I will have an extra column here في النهاية. It's called the department number. So for each employee, I will write his SSN, I will write his first name, middle initials, last name, salary, sex, and his department number. معناته ايش? This diamond will be converted into a column هنا في النهاية. Okay? So a relationship will be sometimes will be converted into a column, sometimes will be converted into what? Into a table. And I will show you when we convert it into a table and when we convert it into a column. Now, for example, here, do you see this one, Shabab? This is a relationship. Now, what does it mean? An employee can have dependents. So there is a relationship between an employee and dependent. In the dependent table, I must what? For each dependent, I must have a column of the employee. So in this case, SSN, which is the primary key of this table, will also be in this table here. So this relationship simply take the primary key of this table and also add it to the dependent table. So that will be like number 5 here بعدين. I have to have SSN here. So when I do that, what it means is later on when I'm going to create a table, I am going to have the employee and the dependent. So I will know that Alice belongs to this. Theodore belongs to this. Joy belongs to this. Amber belongs. So this column was created because of the relationship, because of the diamond. Also this column, department number. هذا ما كان موجود أول in the diagram. We don't have department number, if you say. So this was created because I want to find out what is the department of John. The department of John is department number 5. What's department number 5? So this is the department table. Department number 5 is here. Oh, so he works for the research department. So you have to do that one. So you have to create the diamonds. في النهاية, those diamonds will be converted into what? Some of them will be converted into columns in the table. Sometimes will be converted into what? Into tables. Is this up to now? Do you understand what diamonds is, Shabab? What the relationship is, or حاجة?
Sir, the diamonds are to reduce the table size, right? Of any one table.
Very good. So we just bring the primary key and we put it in the other table. Yes. So it will reduce the number of columns in the table. Definitely. You're right. Very good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so what I will do, I will take you back and forth. The reason is I just wanted to show you what will happen at the end after with your design. So what is the relationship between this design and the actual table? That's why I'm taking it back and forth. So if you see, we only have in this design, we have 4 columns, but actually when we created the table, they became 5. Why did they become 5? Because of this diamond. So this diamond was converted into another what? Another column. So the primary key of this, because this is a relationship between what? Between employee and what? And the dependents. So simply take the primary key of the employee and add it into the dependent table. So this way I will know for each dependent who is the employee. Was that your question in a way? Well, does it make sense to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this will be converted into a column. In fact, it will be converted into a foreign key. Into a foreign key. So this معناته ايش? It's the primary key from somewhere else. We brought it here and we added to these columns here. But really, this is what this column came because it is what? Because of this diamond, because of this relationship. In fact, we did it also when we were doing the book entity and the telephone entity in the library database. We did the same thing, but we didn't talk about it. But we'll talk about it in the what they call in the lab tomorrow, next week. Sorry. So by the way, we have lab next week. We'll talk about database design in detail. And I'm going to give you an exercise, 1 or 2 exercises to do it, and we will solve it together, inshallah. So just to make it even much more stronger.
Doctor?
Yes, sir.
About the lab, we have a quiz in 6 p.m. And the next week, and on Sunday.
Which another course you mean?
343.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll finish quickly, inshallah. Don't worry. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so let me again repeat the diamond. Now look at the diamonds. We have 3 types of diamonds. We have 2 types of diamonds. In fact, we have a number of diamonds. Let me just explain for you. Look, do you see these numbers n and 1? This number is n and this number 1, isn't it? This is called cardinality. Now, what does it mean? What it means is the following. They have a meaning. They are not just for nothing. What it means is, in one department, I can have many employees. So in one department, there are many employees who work in that department. So what it means is the following. For example, look in this table here. Look department number 5. How many people work in department number 5? Yes, how many employees do we have in department number 5? Can you show me? Can you count them?
4.
4, very good. The first employee works in department number 5. If you look at this column, look at this column here. Okay. So we have this guy works in department number 5. This guy also works in department number 5. This guy also works in department number 5. This guy also works in department. So we have 4 people. So in one department, I can have many employees. So how do we show that one in our database design? Like this one. We say in one department, we can have many. What n stands for many, Shabab. You can use n, you can use m, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we can have many employees. So that will show you also that. What about this one here? Look, I have here in one department, one manager. Of course, the manager is also what, Shabab? Is an employee, say. So I want to know who is the manager, which employee is the manager of the department. We will put it also in the database. I will talk about it, inshallah. But let me show you here. In one department, yes.
How do we know the direction? Like,
oh,
it's
yeah,
1 to 1.
Yeah, very good. I will come to it. I will explain to it. Very good, very good. Very good question. That's my next step, inshallah. So in one department, we have how many what? We have how many projects? One department can control many what? Many projects, isn't it? Now let me take you to the project table. I don't know whether going back and forth is a good idea, but if you look at the project table, look at the department. Project number 1, we have how many projects? This is the project table. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects. We will have at the end. And this has not been created yet, and we are still in the C level. But I'm just taking you at the end what it will look like. So look, for example, at the first project. It belongs to department number 1. This is department number Department number 5, 1, 2, 3. It has 3 projects. So in one department can have multiple projects. So that's what it means here. So it means one department can control what? Can control many projects. So we should show in our database which project is controlled by which department. Is that clear, Shabab? For example, let me take a student and his department. Now, in one department, can we have many students, Shabab?
Yes.
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 Very good. So in the student table, we have a column, call it department. So هناك we write what? We write your department ID. So that's to make sure that to know which student in which department he belongs and so on. So this is the same thing. Okay. For example, here an employee can have many what? Many dependents. I showed you one of the employees, he had 3 dependents, isn't it? So let me show you again here. For example, if you look, for example, Alice, Theodore, enjoy these 3 dependents. They all belong to the same person. 334, 3344, 34. So it means one employee can have what? Can have many dependents. So how do we show that one here in the rectangle? In this diamond, we say one employee, many dependents. So is this clear? This relationship is called one-to-many relationship. So this relationship is called what? One-to-many. So one of this, many of the other. So it's called one-to-many relationship. So can you show me any one-to-many relationship here? So I have here one-to-many. So this is one-to-many relationship. This is also one-to-many relationship.
Works.
This is also one-to-many relationship. Yes, we have also one-to-many relationship. This relationship is very strange, isn't it? It's on the same table. All these relationships are between 2 tables, isn't it? But this one is on the same table. Do you see this, Yashaba?
Yes.
Now, why do we do this one? It means one supervisor can supervise many supervisees. But one employee can be the supervisor of many other employees. Let me show you. So I'm going to create a column. So this will be replaced by a column. But the column will be again in the same In the same table. So I will have another column here, Ziada, to replace this diamond. This is called the supervisor SSN. What is the supervisor? What? Supervisor ID or SSN. Let me show you what will happen at the end. At the end, we will create this column. This is called the supervisor SSN. It will show me for each employee who is the supervisor. For example, let's take a John. John is an employee. This is his ID. This is his birthday. This is his address. And this is his sex, this is his supervisor. So who is the supervisor? 333, 444, 555. Also the supervisor himself is an employee. Say? Who is the supervisor? What is the name of the supervisor? Can you tell me?
Franklin.
Franklin, very good. So Franklin is the boss of John, Shabab. So what we do is for each employee, we will put the employee who is his supervisor. So this guy is a supervisor, is a supervisee, and this is a supervisor. This is a supervisee, this is a supervisor. Okay, and so on and so on. Yani. So how do we show this one? So this column was not there before. If you look at the conceptual design, we don't have that column. We don't have a supervisor column. We have first SSN, we have first name, middle initial, last name, but no supervisor. So this one will be converted later on. This diamond will be converted into another column, but in the same table, and we call it the supervisor SSN or the supervisor ID. So for each employee, we will have his supervisor. Is this clear, Shabab?
Is it possible to have like another table for supervisor?
Oh yeah, you can do. In fact, each relationship here, you can make it a table. But you will have so many tables, which is unnecessarily making so many tables. Will make the performance bad. So creating many tables affects the performance. But you're right, you can do that. Definitely. Yes.
Yes, doctor. Let's say that we have a CEO in our company.
Yes.
So he will not have a supervisor.
Very good, very good, very good. سبقتني يعني إن شاء الله. But in fact, in this diagram, I will show you exactly what we mean by that one. But let me show you what he is saying. His question is very, very important. It was my next step, معلش. For example, look at this guy here. There is one guy here who doesn't have a supervisor. Last one. who is the supervisor of Jamie يا شباب of James the last guy
It was none.
Null he doesn't have because he's the top
Boss.
manager خلاص he doesn't he's the boss يعني isn't it so he doesn't have any supervisor so we make it null يعني okay that makes sense to you
Could you like put a super SSN special, I mean, a unique ID just for the COEs so that we recognize it afterwards? You know, if we put like zeros, then we will know James is the COE.
what about
CEO.
by the way when you are going to write in the application program inshallah later on if you see null معناته خلاص he doesn't have a supervisor
So it's enough, yes.
It's enough, yes. So once you see null, خلاص automatically you will find out by a program that this is null. Automatically you will know who is the super. So for example, if I ask you who is the top supervisor, then you will go to this column here and you will find somebody with null. Automatically you will know he is the top supervisor. There is no supervisor for that guy. Okay, so you will do that one in your application بعدين. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
It's one way of doing it, يعني. One way.
So always the diamonds will be converted to primary and foreign key, right?
Oh,
But,
definitely.
left tables together.
But not all of them. And I will show you. But as I told you, there are 3 types of relationships. Let me show you the 3 types of relationships. You have one-to-many relationship here. You have one-to-many relationship here. You have also one-to-many relationship here. You have one-to-many relationship here. So 4 of these relationships are one-to-many. Do you see that, Shabab? So any one-to-many relationship, it will be converted into a foreign key. It will be a column. In which table? Will it be a column in this table or in this table? It will be a column on the many side. Now, what is the many side? Now, what is the many side here? Is the employee or the department?
The employee.
The employee.
The employee. So we will put in the employee an extra column. But we'll talk about this one inshallah later on. Don't worry about it. Okay? When we go from conceptual design to logical design, we will solve it. Sahih?
How we can determine the main side?
Huh?
How we can determine the main side?
The many? One-to-many?
Okay, it's clear now.
Okay. From the requirements. In the requirements, it will tell you like this one. An employee belongs to one department. Okay. A department can have many employees and so on. And you will find it from here. Okay. Then you will say, oh, it's one-to-many. Is that okay?
Doctor.
Yes.
Does the double line mean something or?
Oh yeah, that was the next question now. Very good. Now, why do we have double line here? It's not a mistake. It has a big meaning. What it means is the following. When I have double line, let me just explain for you double line here. Maybe it's easier to explain it here. This is double line, Shabab, here, double line here, and single line here, double line here, and double line here. It has meaning. Okay? This is called, يعني, for example, like here. Double line معناته ايش? Every dependent must have a relationship with an employee. That's what it means. معنى ما في dependent without an employee related to him. معناته في الجاب every dependent must belong to an employee. Otherwise, he will not be put in this independent. What about single line? It means not every employee has a relationship with dependent. If employees, they don't have any children, any wife, they are not married. صحيح? So you will not find them in the dependent table. So what it means is when you see double line معناته ايش? So single line on this side of the diamond and double line on this side of the diamond simply means every dependent must have an employee. But not every employee is what? Has a dependent. For example, look at this table here. Who has dependent, Shabab? From these 8 employees, we have 8 employees. Who has dependent? Only 3, صحيح?
Yes.
Only 3. 33344 اللي هو ايش؟ Franklin. And 987, who is 987? Ahmed. And 12345, who is 12345? Is John. These are the only people who have dependents. The other الباقيين مش متزوجين ما عندهمش أطفال مثلا. So not every employee has dependent, but every dependent must have what? must have an employee. So when we made a relationship between these two, we made here double line, but we made here single line. Did you get my point يا شباب؟
معناها الكولوم حق ال ASSN ممنوع يكون null.
Very good, excellent. I never thought you can see that now. Exactly. We will never have any null هنا معناتها. ما في null هنا أبدا. Because everyone must have what? An employee. So no nulls are allowed. Very good, excellent. I'm very surprised you saw this one just now. Excellent. معناته إيه? No nulls are allowed here. Simply that's what it means. معناته everyone must have what? Must have an employee. Okay. Very good. Let me take you to another example. Do you see this, ya shabab? Every project must belong to what? Must be controlled by what? By the department. So what it means is if I go to the department table, so the department number here, you will never find a null here because this project is controlled by this department. This project is controlled by this department. So this is the relationship between department and what? This relationship was converted to this foreign key, shabab. So we put the department number here and then make sure that nothing is null here. Every must belong. That's what this double line shows you. So it means there is no project with null department. What about this? What is telling me, shabab? Can you explain to me what this?
It's like every employee must work for every
department. No, every must have a department. Every employee must have a department, and every department must have what? Must have
employees.
An employee. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. What about this one? Managers. Every department must have what? Must
One
have
manager.
a manager. But not every employee is a manager, صحيح?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, so that's why we make a single line here, we make a double line here. Double معناتها every department must have. So if you look at the department table here, we have the manager SSN here. So who is the manager of research, which department number 5 is 3344555, which is Franklin, يعني, and so on. So this was a diamond between this one and this one, and then we converted it into a foreign key. هذا ما كان موجود in the department table. So if you look at the department table here, we don't have manager. We have only name and number and location, isn't it? But this diamond was converted into what? Into a column here, which is the manager SSN. Is this point clear, Shabab? So the double line simply means the foreign key cannot be null. That's what it means, as he said. And one of you, excellent observation. Now, what about this one? We have, so this is one-to-one relationship. This is one-to-many relationship. This is one-to-one. I think this is only one-to-one relationship. Matter. One department will have only one manager. Khalas. What about this one?
Many.
Exactly. What does it mean?
Every project must have many employees.
It can have many employees, and an employee can work also in many what?
Projects.
In many projects. But every employee must have a project. Do we have an employee without a project, Shabab? Sorry. Do we have an employee without a project?
No.
No.
We can't have.
Do we have a project without an employee?
No.
No, because this double line is telling me that.
Yes.
So this is a ER diagram. It's very simple. So this is called a conceptual what? Conceptual diagram.
What's the difference between M and N?
Between M, doesn't matter. It means many to many. We don't want to put NN مرتين because if we put NN معناتها equal. So it will be confusing a little bit.
So in this case, where the foreign key will be?
Oh, very good.
Very good.
In fact, this is going to be a table. Many to many will be a table. Let me just give you. This is our logical design. When you go from logical design to conceptual design, we will answer it. But let me give you the answer now. This will be a table. One to many will be a column on the many side, isn't it? One to one will be a column on the mandatory side. This is mandatory, this is optional. I don't say optional, this is mandatory. Double line is called mandatory, single line is called optional. So we will put it what in the in the mandatory side, so in the department. So this will be converted into a column, but where will the column go? Will it go to this side or to this side? Look at the double line, it will go to the double line. What about if both of them were single? Choose any one of them, it doesn't matter. So let me repeat, if you have one to many, put it into the many sides of the column. If it is many to many, make it a table. If it is one to one, make it on the mandatory side, on the double line mandatory side. Otherwise, both of them are single, just choose anyone, it doesn't matter. But we will do that one in the next step. That's our next step. That's the logical design. That comes here. Don't worry about this point if you don't understand it. But when we go from C to L, we will talk about this one in detail. Is that okay? You are asking me now what we are going to do with L. So I gave you a glimpse of L, okay? Sorry, any question before I let you go? So don't worry, this is the L. Do you understand? This is the L. And I will talk to you how we did L. In the L, we write, for example, the supervisor SSN, and you say this is related to what? To the SSN, and the manager SSN, we'll put it here, this is related to so all of them will be converted, inshallah, into columns. Look at this one. So we'll have, at the end, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables out of this. Why do you think there will be 6 tables, Shabab? Table, isn't it? This is the second table. 2, table number 3, table number 4. Did you get it, Shabab? Now this will be table number 5 because it's a many-to-many relationship. And this will be table number what? It's table number 6. We will do that one for logical design. What's the Any question?
Doctor, do you have to include every all relations in the conceptual design, or some relations you just ignore?
Oh no,
they are small. Well,
put everything. In fact, your conceptual design should be so good that if I give you this, I like your question. If I give you this, you can give me this.
Okay, yes.
Exactly. I don't have to look at this.
It includes everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So in fact, this one is written, but this one is in drawing. And they mean exactly the same. But the only problem is we cannot really put everything in what? In drawing. And sometimes we can have limitations, okay? And I will talk about that one later on, inshallah. This is exactly like what Shabab. For example, when I'm going to build a house, what do I do first? I give him my requirement, isn't it? Let me show you what will happen. I want to build a house. I will tell him, okay, I need 2 bedrooms. Okay, I need 3 bedrooms. So this is what I will do first. I should know what I want. So I will put all my requirements of what? Of what I want for my house. I want to build a house. So these are my requirements. Then where do I take my requirements, Shabab?
Architecture or
architecture in India. So I will talk to an architect. Architect will read this one and he will convert it into what, Shabab? Into something like this. Not this design. What is it?
Maybe a blueprint.
What do they call it? House floor design, I think. Let me just say, house floor design. Well, okay. Let me see. Yeah, something like this. Do you see this? So he'll make a bedroom for me, and he'll make a door. This is the door of the bedroom, and so on and so on. This kind of a design. So this is like a conceptual design. So whatever you have written for him, the architecture will convert it into a drawing. So this is what we are doing, Shabab. This is how they do it in the housing, and this is how we do it in what? In the database. Give me the requirement, and this is a floor plan. Okay, this is a database plan. Does that make sense to you, Shabab?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So the architect أول ينسى حمام ولا حاجة, he has to draw everything. Otherwise, we will have a problem at the end of the, when the house is finished, isn't it? So the same thing here. Don't forget anything. Put everything here. Otherwise, later on, these are the guy who is the MIS people will give us this one. This is given to us by the MIS people. And then this is the data modeler. The data modeler or the data architect. So the data modeler will give you this one. So he will make sure that the data modeler puts everything here. You should not forget anything. The only thing he cannot put it here probably is if what? If it cannot be if the facility, this is called entity relationship diagram. If the entity relationship diagram, you know, for example, the primary key is not here. We don't have primary key, Shabab. Do you see there is primary key here? No, it's not part of this. So he cannot show you primary. Primary key will come here. And this is our next class, inshallah, not now. So for now, all I want you to understand is, I will give you something like this one in the lab, inshallah. You will work in groups, or if you can work alone, that's fine, because groups may be difficult. Unless you create a group, I will give you something like this. I think I will give you a hotel system, or I will give you something, inshallah. Maybe our library system, but I will make it a little bit bigger, Then instead of using Excel, which is this way to do things, we will do it properly. I will use our library system maybe, and you will show me how to do it, the conceptual design of the library system in the lab next week. Any question before I let you go? I cannot give you homework this week because you still need to go from the logical design from the conceptual design to this is a logical design. This is the L, Shabab. This is a C. And this is the R. So those of you, what do I mean by CR? I'm talking about this one. The R, the C, and the L. So once I finish the L, then I will post you your first homework. And you will submit it instead of end of week 5, you will submit it end of week 6. And next week, I will give you your phase 1 of the project. Now, mashallah, most of you chose your team numbers and you emailed me, and I emailed you back with your group number. But I still have some students who have not done that. Make it very quick, Ashraf. Before next week, I should know your group. If you don't know anyone, let me know so that I can publish. Those of you who doesn't have any, who don't know a friend or a person or a member to be in your group, you have to email me, and I will put you with anyone who is who doesn't have one. Anyhow, so this is what we are going to do, inshallah, next week. But next class, I'm going to teach you this. I will take you from this to this, inshallah. Any question before I let you go? Let me take attendance. Yes.
If I want to make my own project, when I should talk to you?
Oh, just talk to me during my office hours. Email me and talk to me during my office hours, inshallah, and then we will see what you're. Some of you who wants to make a special project and you don't want to share it because you will use it for commercialization or so on. Then you need to talk to me. Okay, so talk to me during my office hours, or just make an appointment. We'll talk at any time, inshallah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. My pleasure. Okay, so I will stop recording, and if you have any questions, you can still keep asking me.